Marilyn Monroe. Her name alone evokes a vision of timeless beauty, her white dress billowing over a subway grate in the 7-Year Itch, her sultry voice whispering dreams in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. She was Hollywood's ultimate icon, a beacon of glamour and vulnerability, a star whose light seemed destined to burn forever. George Reeves, the Man of Steel, soared into America's heart as Superman, his chiseled jaw and heroic grin embodying hope in Adventures of Superman. To the world, they were untouchable, titans of the silver screen, symbols of an era craving escape and inspiration. But what if I told you that beneath their glittering facades, Marilyn and George lived lies so devastating they cost them their lives? Secrets so explosive that Hollywood and powerful figures beyond conspired to bury them forever. A forgotten letter from Marilyn's closest confidant, whispers from a priest who heard a dying confession, and fragments of a buried investigation into George's death reveal a chilling truth. Their fates were intertwined, their deaths orchestrated to protect secrets that could have shattered empires. Today, we unravel one of Hollywood's darkest cover-ups, a tale of love, betrayal and injustice that binds Marilyn Monroe and George Reeves in a tragedy that will forever change how you see the blonde bombshell and the Man of Steel. On June 16, 1959, George Reeves was found dead in his Benedict Canyon home. 3 years later, on August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was discovered lifeless in her Brentwood bedroom. Empty pill bottles scattered around, her death labeled a probable suicide. The official stories were tidy, convenient, and riddled with doubt. A second bullet hole in George's room, missing fingerprints on the gun, and conflicting witness accounts pointed to murder. Marilyn's autopsy raised questions. Her stomach empty of pills, a locked phone call to an unknown number hours before her death. Now, a letter from Paula Strasberg, Marilyn's acting coach, found in a 1990s archive, whispers of a secret Marilyn shared. They got George, and they'll get me too. Combined with Jerry Giesler's investigation into Reeves' death, hired by his grieving mother, these clues unveil a devastating connection. Two stars, trapped in gilded cages, silenced to protect Hollywood's untouchables and, for Marilyn, political giants. This is the story of a truth Hollywood was determined to bury, a haunting legacy that refuses to fade. To understand the depth of this tragedy, we must journey into the lives of Marilyn and George, the facades they were forced to maintain, and the forces that crushed them. They were more than icons. They were human beings, wrestling with inner demons, caught in a system that demanded perfection while exploiting their vulnerabilities. Their stories, separated by years, are bound by a shared struggle against an unforgiving industry, a culture of complicity and fear that silenced their cries for justice. Marilyn Monroe was born Norma Jean Mortensen in 1926 in Los Angeles, a child of poverty and chaos. Her mother, Gladys, battled mental illness, leaving Norma Jean to navigate a childhood of foster homes, orphanages, and abuse. The instability forged a fierce need for love, a yearning for acceptance that would define her every choice. At 16, she married James Dougherty to escape foster care, her beauty her only currency in a world that offered little else. By her late teens, she was modeling, her wide-eyed innocence catching the eye of Hollywood scouts. George Reeves, born George Besolo in 1914 in Iowa, grew up in Pasadena under the care of his devoted mother, Helen, after a bitter parental divorce. His early years were marked by struggle, his mother's sacrifices instilling a relentless ambition to prove himself. As a young actor, he took bit parts in Gone with the Wind and From Here to Eternity, his charm and determination pushing him forward. Both Marilyn and George were shaped by their hardships. Marilyn's craving for love, George's hunger for recognition. Traits that propelled them to stardom, but left them vulnerable to the predators of Tinseltown. Marilyn's ascent was nothing short of miraculous. By the early 1950s, she was Hollywood's golden girl, starring in blockbusters like Niagara, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and Some Like It Hot. Her breathy voice, her vulnerable charm, made her a global sensation, the epitome of glamour in a post-war world, desperate for joy. Magazine covers immortalized her, her smile a beacon of the American dream. George, too, became a household name as Superman in Adventures of Superman from 1952 to 1958. His commanding presence and warm smile captivated millions, children cheering as he leaped tall buildings, adults admiring his all-American heroism. To the world, they were icons: Marilyn, the irresistible starlet; George, the embodiment of strength and hope. Their public images were meticulously crafted by studios like 20th Century Fox and MGM, sold as symbols of perfection. Marilyn graced premieres, her laughter echoing through chasens. George inspired a generation, his Superman cape a cultural touchstone. They were titans of the silver screen, their fame a glittering facade that hid the cracks beneath. But in private, behind the closed doors of their Beverly Hills homes, the first signs of trouble were emerging. And it all began with the storms of their personal lives. Marilyn's romantic life was a whirlwind of heartbreak, played out under Hollywood's unforgiving spotlight. Her marriage to James Dougherty ended in 1946 as her career soared, his desire for a housewife clashing with her ambition. In 1954, she wed baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, a fairy tale romance that descended into a nightmare. His jealousy over her fame, her iconic subway grate scene, led to explosive arguments. Their divorce after 9 months splashed across tabloids. Her third marriage to playwright Arthur Miller in 1956 promised intellectual connection, but his detachment and her insecurities unraveled it by 1961. Each failed marriage fed her need for love, her childhood wounds reopened by rejection. George's love life was equally turbulent. His marriage to actress Eleanora Needles from 1940 to 1950 buckled under his relentless drive, their quiet life no match for his Hollywood dreams. Then came Toni Mannix, a former actress and mistress of MGM's Eddie Mannix, whose obsessive love offered George stability, a Benedict Canyon home, a Cadillac, but chained him to her possessiveness. By 1958, George broke free, falling for Leonore Lemon, a fiery New York socialite whose chaotic energy captivated him. Their engagement, announced days before his death, was a dagger to Toni's heart, her rage a spark in a powder keg. Marilyn and George, both craving acceptance, found themselves trapped by lovers who demanded control, their fierce needs clashing with the realities of their gilded cages. These public dramas were painful, but they were merely a smokescreen, hiding secrets far more dangerous unfolding in the shadows. On June 16, 1959, George Reeves was found dead in his upstairs bedroom, a .30 caliber Luger beside him, a bullet through his skull. The police ruled it suicide within hours, citing his frustration with typecasting and heavy drinking, a convenient narrative that painted Superman as a broken man. 3 years later, on August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was discovered lifeless in her Brentwood home. Empty, barbiturate bottles scattered around, her death labeled a probable suicide. But the official stories crumbled under scrutiny. Jerry Giesler, hired by George's mother, Helen Besselow, uncovered chilling inconsistencies. No fingerprints on the Luger, a second bullet hole in the bedroom floor, a bullet casing under George's body, and conflicting accounts from Leonore Lemon and 3 guests, William Bliss, Carol Van Ronkel, and Robert Condon, drinking at his home that night. Around 1 a.m., after a heated argument with Leonore, George went upstairs. Moments later, a gunshot rang out. Leonore's story shifted. She claimed he was playing with the gun, then said she was downstairs, her eyes darting nervously when questioned. For Marilyn, the coroner's report raised red flags. Her stomach contained no pill residue. Her body was positioned unnaturally, and a locked phone call to an unknown number was traced to a payphone near the Kennedy compound. A letter from Paula Strasberg, found in a 1990s auction, whispered a haunting truth. Marilyn said George's death wasn't what they claimed. She was terrified she'd be next. These fragments, combined with Giesler's findings, point to a devastating revelation. Marilyn and George were silenced to protect secrets tied to Hollywood's power brokers, and in Marilyn's case, political titans. Marilyn's secret began in the glittering haze of 1961, at a private party hosted by Frank Sinatra at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. Across a crowded room, her eyes locked with John F. Kennedy's, then a senator with presidential ambitions. Their connection was instant, forbidden, a spark that defied the moral constraints of the era. They met in secret, late-night trysts at Peter Lawford's Santa Monica beach house, stolen moments in New York's Carlyle Hotel, each encounter a gamble with her career and his campaign. Marilyn, desperate for the love she never found, believed Kennedy offered salvation. but whispers suggested she knew too much. Allegedly, she overheard discussions about his ties to organized crime, deals that could derail his presidency. Her diary, rumored to have been seized by the FBI, contained notes about meetings with dangerous men, a detail later corroborated by a 1962 wiretap transcript leaked in the 1980s. George's secret, meanwhile, was rooted in his entanglement with Toni Mannix and her husband, Eddie Mannix, MGM's ruthless fixer. Toni's love turned to obsession when George chose Leonore Lemon, her jealousy a fire that consumed her. According to a retired LAPD detective's 1990s account, Toni made a frantic 4:30 a.m. call to Phyllis Coates, who played Lois Lane, screaming, "They've killed him," before the line went dead. Days later, Toni wrote to a friend, her words chilling, "I loved him too much, and it cost him everything." Eddie, with rumored mob connections, had the power to silence scandals. A 1959 police report, later buried, noted a meeting between Eddie and a high-ranking officer hours after George's death, ensuring the suicide ruling stood. Both Marilyn and George, caught in forbidden stories, faced a system designed to crush them. In the 1950s and early 1960s, Hollywood was a fortress of control, its studios wielding iron grips over every facet of a star's life. MGM and 20th Century Fox dictated scripts, romances, and reputations, their morality clauses weapons that could end careers overnight. A murder tied to Superman or the blonde bombshell would have been catastrophic, threatening millions in revenue and the studio's wholesome images. Eddie Mannix, a kingpin with alleged ties to organized crime, was Hollywood's ultimate fixer. Known for making scandals vanish, whether through payoffs, threats, or worse. A 1960s memoir by a former MGM publicist claimed Eddie met with witnesses the night of George's death, their stories aligning after private discussions. For Marilyn, the Kennedy family's influence loomed large. Robert Kennedy, then Attorney General, reportedly visited her Brentwood home days before her death, a detail confirmed by a neighbor who saw a black car with government plates. A leaked 1962 memo from a 20th Century Fox executive urged staff to close the case swiftly per instructions from above. The unforgiving power dynamics of the era ensured silence. George's witnesses, William Bliss, Carol Van Ronkel, gave vague, rehearsed accounts, with Bliss reportedly receiving a cash-filled envelope from an MGM associate. Marilyn's housekeeper, Eunice Murray, changed her story, claiming Marilyn was fine, despite evidence of distress, her voice trembling under questioning. The studio system's culture of complicity and fear buried the truth, leaving Marilyn and George as casualties of an impossible imbalance of power. The emotional fallout was a quiet desperation that consumed those closest to them. Marilyn's final months were a descent into despair. Friends described her as fragile, haunted by the past, her nights plagued by insomnia and pills. She confided in Paula Strasberg, her voice trembling, "I know too much, Paula, and it's killing me." Her fear of exposure about Kennedy, about Hollywood's underbelly, was a heavy burden. She began locking her doors, checking her phone for taps, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by paranoia. A makeup artist recalled Marilyn staring into a mirror before a shoot, whispering, "I'm not long for this world." George's mother, Helen Besolo, poured her life savings into Gisla's investigation, her Pasadena home a shrine to her son's Superman legacy. She confronted Toni Mannix at a 1960 Hollywood event, her voice cutting through the crowd. "You took my boy from me. What did you do?" Toni, pale and trembling, fled, her silence deafening. Friends later said Toni paced her Beverly Hills home, surrounded by George's photos, his Superman cape framed like a sacred relic. She drank heavily, her nights haunted by memories, stolen dinners at Romanoff's, quiet evenings in Benedict Canyon, his voice calling her darling. In a tearful moment, she told a friend, "I knew things I can't say, things that would ruin everything." Both Marilyn and George, icons of strength and allure, left behind loved ones wrestling with horrific revelations, their lives marked by wounds that never truly healed. The inevitable fallout of their secrets reshaped their legacies. Marilyn's career, once unstoppable, faltered in her final year. Her last film, The Misfits, was a critical success but a personal ordeal, her exhaustion and addiction straining her relationships. She was dropped from Something's Got to Give in 1962. Her absences blamed on illness but whispered to be studio sabotage. A friend recalled her saying, "They don't want me anymore. They know I talk too much." George, too, faced a declining career, typecast as Superman, his dreams of directing crushed by MGM's indifference. His engagement to Leonore Lemon was a desperate grasp at freedom, but it enraged Tony Mannix, whose influence lingered. A neighbor reported hearing a man's voice, possibly a fixer, at George's home hours before his death, a detail ignored by police. Helen Besselow received an anonymous call days later, a voice warning, "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." The tragic irony was stark. Marilyn and George, who embodied hope and beauty, were undone by the very system that made them stars, their secrets a shadow that lingered over their final days. The aftermath of their deaths was a lingering shadow that haunted those who knew them. Marilyn died at 36, her Brentwood home a tomb of unfulfilled dreams. A neighbor reported hearing a man's voice, possibly Robert Kennedy's, hours before her death, a detail buried by the coroner. Her diary, rumored to contain explosive entries about the Kennedys, vanished, with FBI agents reportedly seen at her home post-mortem. George's death at 45 left Helen Besselow broken, her fight for justice ending with her death in 1964. Tony Mannix lived until 1983, her final years spent in solitude, her Beverly Hills home a mausoleum to George. She kept his Superman costume in a locked chest, refusing to let anyone touch it, a symbol of a love that had become a curse. In 1983, weeks before her death, she confessed to a priest, whispering, "I let it happen. George deserved better." The confession, though undocumented, became Hollywood legend, fueling Hollywood kryptonite and Hollywoodland. Paula Strasberg, who died in 1966, left behind her letter hinting at Marilyn's fear of powerful men. The studio system's iron grip outlived them all, with MGM and 20th Century Fox shaping narratives that protected their empires. But the secrets refused to stay buried. A 2025 Woman's World article reignited interest, with fans on X debating whether Marilyn and George were victims of the same forces, studio fixers, political titans, or both. Their legacies are a haunting blend of triumph and tragedy. Marilyn remains a cultural icon, her image on posters and t-shirts, but her death fuels endless speculation. Hollywoodland in 2006 and recent true crime docuseries like The Mystery of Marilyn Monroe. Netflix, 2022, keep her story alive, with fans questioning the suicide ruling. George's Superman legacy endures, his reruns a nostalgic touchstone, but his death remains a true crime enigma. Jack Larson, who played Jimmy Olsen, said in a 1990s interview, "George's death was no suicide. Someone made sure of it." Phyllis Coates, Lois Lane in Adventures of Superman, recalled Tony's frantic call, her voice haunted. "They've killed him." The enduring question mark over their deaths has sparked online debates, with ex-users in 2025 arguing over whether Marilyn and George crossed the same dangerous lines. Their stories, once locked away, are now a testament to the cost of fame, a reminder that even the brightest stars can be extinguished by a system designed to protect its own. This revelation forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Marilyn Monroe and George Reeves were more than icons. They were human beings, trapped in a world that demanded perfection while exploiting their flaws. Their legacies are stained by secrets, their deaths a tragic irony of their public images. Can we separate the blonde bombshell from the woman who knew too much? Can we honor Superman while questioning the system that failed him? This isn't just a story about Marilyn and George. It's a story about the price of fame, the weight of silence, and the courage to seek truth in a culture of complicity and fear. The truth, perhaps, died with them, but the questions linger, a haunting legacy that refuses to fade. The question remains for you. Were Marilyn Monroe and George Reeves victims of their own demons, or were they silenced by a conspiracy too powerful to fight? The secret is out, but the debate has just begun. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this deep dive into a hidden Hollywood story moved you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more truths that time has tried to forget.